Yo, what's good, YouTube, man? It's Gary with another Fan TV. Back at you another video. Like the content in this video, go smash that like button. Like the content in this channel, go and subscribe, man. Look, so the Ravens just received a really more concerning bad news today, right? You know, when it comes to really their entire interior defensive line. So we'll talk about that. Also, just want to give final thoughts about the Lions game. I didn't rewatch the whole game; just watch some of the defensive snaps. Right, I saw some of the things that have been put out on Twitter by some of the Ravens people that really grind and watch Twitter or watch film. Excuse me. So I just think that when I watched it overall, I just saw that the fact that the Ravens and Zach Orr in particular just tried to do too much. All right. There are snaps when the Lions are in the red zone, right? We're talking about goal, really, just don't even say red zone, goal to goal situations, and Marlon Humphrey is lined up at middle linebacker, right? There's situations where, it's 4th down and 3, and the Ravens are 7 yards off the ball, right? Too far off, easy out route on St. Brown. These are things that I see all over the film is where they're overthinking it and not playing aggressive. They're not keeping it simple. I saw clips of, Coach Evans also put up a clip of David Ojabo out there playing weak side linebacker, right? So when I think about what the Ravens did last year that really turned the season around, right? They said they made everything simpler, right? They got back to kind of like the basics of the defense, right? That was when, they inserted Darius Washington into the lineup and things like that. I think that's what's missing again. The Ravens need to make things simpler, especially on defense, all right? And with these injuries coming up, they're going to need to keep it simple, right? I think that maybe Zach Orr felt as though, okay, well, we had to make things simpler last year because that was last year's result. Now we done had a full training camp, full off season. Let's go back to doing things that's a little bit more complex. I don't think so, right? Play it simple, right? I don't need to see wild, guys dropping in the coverage that are supposed to be rushing the passer. I'm not saying this was every snap, but it was too many snaps of that, right? So, in my opinion, keep it simpler. The Ravens can get back to doing decent enough job on defense because the talent is there. They got to be put in a position to succeed. All right. But anyway, let's talk about the bad news for today. All right. Non-commander BK has already been ruled out for this weekend's game versus the Kansas City Chiefs. All right. John Harbaugh pretty much said that he's not comfortable saying exactly what's going on. Non-commander BK hasn't gotten the green light. We know this is a neck injury. We know that it's serious. They've already ruled him out for the game. We know that if he won't even comment on it, that it's something that should be taken seriously. I wouldn't be surprised if pretty soon Nandi Madubuike is put on IR. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised if that's the next step. Okay, so for one, President Nandi Madubuike, hopefully he makes it through this. Everything's okay with him, and if it's weeks, if it's the season, hopefully he comes back healthy, right? But for the Ravens expected for this season, that's a massive loss, right? We already saw what the Ravens defense looks like 1 week without him. And yes, the Lions have a good old line. Yes, the Lions have a good run game, right? But other teams are going to have that as well. And is the Ravens going to be that disadvantaged when they're going into all these other games, right? So that's a big story, right? I mean, then you lose the pass rush juice that Madubuike provides from the interior. I thought that this season he started off way better than he did last year, right? I thought that he was playing well. I mean, and then I guess one of the more frustrating parts about it is that it's like we didn't even see this coming. It wasn't like, oh man, not even BK, he got his head put in wrong on a play, and we saw him miss the rest of the game. It was just he finished all the games that he played in, and then he was just out. So it's just a kind of a mystery right now of what's going on. But it's not good news for the Ravens, right? So then you want to add on to more bad news for the Ravens, right? When I look at the Ravens injury report, the entire interior defensive line is pretty much on the injury report. Travis Jones, DNP with a knee. Broderick Washington, DNP, right? Well, I talked about Nandi Madubuike, right? So when I look at the Ravens roster right now, are you going to see, as far as completely healthy, you got guys like John Jenkins, you got Fudd Peoples, and the Ravens just signed 2 different interior defensive linemen today. All right, so I'll talk about that as well. But this is not good news for the Ravens at all, right? So, just looking at the article, looking at the article from the Ravens.com, it confirms that the only 2 before the 2 signs that the Ravens made that are healthy interior defensive linemen, you got John Jenkins and you got Aeneas Peoples, right? That's it. So the Ravens are thin up front. That's where a lot of their front seven, that's where a lot of their damage is coming from, especially in that Lions game, right? And then, another thing just about watching the Lions game is that whatever Roquan Smith did versus the Browns, he did not do versus the Lions at all. Versus the Lions, he was attacking the line of scrimmage. I saw no hesitation. He was getting in there. Versus the Lions, I did not see that at all. I did not see that same guy. There was too many times where he was waiting for the block to come to him. And Roquan does not shed blocks. So anytime the block is going to come to him, they're going to move him. It's just that simple. He does not shed blocks at all. So now you combine the fact that Nandi Madubuike is not going to be playing in front of him, right? Travis Jones is injured. I I can see this getting really bad for the Ravens linebacker core when it comes to getting just pushed and moved off the ball, right? I can see it getting really bad, all right? Just being completely honest, all right? But let's talk about the next part of it, right? The Ravens do sign 2 veterans today, right? First, they signed defensive tackle Taven Bryan and nose tackle Josh Tupou. Josh Tupou was with the Ravens on the practice squad last year. I believe he did see some game action, if I'm not mistaken. But the one that's going to catch more of, like, I guess I don't want to say headlines because he's not that big of a deal, but the more the attention would be Taven Bryan, right? So Taven Bryan, 29 years old. He's a former first-round pick of, I believe, the Jacksonville Jaguars, if I'm not mistaken. Of the Jacksonville Jaguars. 2018 draft, first round, 29th overall pick. Hasn't really done much in his career. Okay, when the Jaguars made the pick at the time, it was kind of question mark. It was kind of a question mark. It wasn't a thing that people were overly confident in, and unfortunately for him, he hasn't done anything to prove those people wrong. Okay, I'm not trying to slander Taven Bryan. I'm just being honest about what he's done so far in his career. All right, so he has 11 and a half sacks so far in his career, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, 3 pass deflections. Let me get his best season. Let's see what his best season was overall. So he had a season in 2022 with the Cleveland Browns where he had 3 sacks, 26 tackles. The most tackles he's had in the season is with Jacksonville 2019. He had 33 tackles, 2 sacks on a year. It's been an up and down career for Taven Bryan, right? If we're just going to be completely honest about it. But the Ravens need bodies, right? And he's a body. So Taven Bryan, this is going to be, he's been on the Jags, the Browns, and the Colts. So the Ravens will be his 4th NFL team. At this point, the Ravens just need bodies. They need capable bodies up front. And Taven Bryan will at least give them a somewhat capable body up front, right? That's what the most important thing is right now. They need more people, right? Because you can't go into this Chiefs game where it's just going to be John Jenkins and Aeneas Peoples, right? That's just not going to cut it. All right. And so for the Ravens, it's not a lot of good news, if I'm being quite honest, right? With the tape that they put out there versus the Lions, right? Then you go in there and then you think about the fact that Nandi Madubuike is going to be out for a while, right? I don't see him. The way John Harbaugh says it, the way he's talking about it, this is not like, oh yeah, he'll be back in a couple weeks. I just don't feel like that's true. I hope to be wrong. I really do. You hate speculating about injuries, but when the coach is kind of giving you those indications that it's not looking very good, he kind of leaves that door open for interpretation, right? And listen, John Harbaugh doesn't have to tell us everything about injuries. We've been down this road plenty of time with John Harbaugh. Cool, we get it. But just reading how it's going, he could be out for a while, right? I expect, right now as things stand, I expect Madubuike to go to IR, if I'm being completely honest with it, all right? So, but that's the Ravens news, right? The Ravens are going to have to figure something out. Zach Orr's going to have to figure something out. He's going to have to figure out a way how to help this interior defensive line. Like I said, John Jenkins was not the guy to be the starter going into the game. And listen, it's only the first week of the injury report. Travis Jones could bounce back in the next couple of days. Roger Washington could bounce back in the next couple of days and be healthy for the Chiefs game. We're still very early in the week to determine all of that. But, it's not, I wouldn't be telling the truth if I said I wasn't concerned about it. You know what I mean? So I'm just going to put it out there. But that's my thoughts on what the news that we got today. And obviously give me your thoughts in the comments, man. But it's Gabriel, 2 Fan TV. I'm out.